Okay, so for those of you that are just joining us, if you don't mind filling out the poll, we can kind of get a sense of how many undergrads, grads, or master students we have. Thank you to those of you that have submitted some questions for us today. I've shared those questions with our panelists so that they can address some of those specifically. I think we'll go ahead and get started so we can be mindful of everybody's time. So I'm Carly Trimboli, one of the marketing career coaches in Lindner Career Services, and I work with Brian Finelli. A lot of you know Brian Finelli, who's also an undergrad marketing coach, and Jess Lee, who works with MS Marketing. Are you here, Jess? She should be here.
Carly.
Hi.
Everyone, thanks for joining.
Brian, you want to say hi?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good to see you virtually. Thanks for being here.
Awesome. So, as career coaches do, we're trying to connect students with the best career opportunities, and we've been talking a lot lately about what that means, especially during this time, and we wanted to get connected with the Cincinnati AMA and hear what's going on in the marketing industry specific to Cincinnati, maybe a little bit more broadly as well. So I really want to thank Suzanne Busick. Did I say your last name right, Suzanne?
Yeah, rhymes with music.
Okay, awesome. But thank you so much for reaching out to your contacts at the Cincinnati AMA and getting them involved. Thank you for being here. We have lots of good topics to chat about today. Namely, we're going to cover some marketing industry trends, what's going on now, what might the future look like, what skills are necessary for students and grads to maintain a competitive advantage in the industry, and then also just general tips on how you can stand out in the job search. So before we, jump into that, I want to do some introductions of our panelists. And so, Brian, I think if you could maybe put up the slide that has all of our panelists, that would be great. And then we're going to kick off the introductions with Justine, who's going to tell us a little bit about her role in AMA, what she gets paid to do. So also, like, what might all of you students or alumni reach out to her about after this is over. So what's her area of expertise per se? And then what her first internship or job was out of college, because I think that's a good, important part of the story here. So thank you to all of our AMA panelists for being with us today. And I will let Justine go ahead and introduce herself.
Hey, everybody. Yes, like Carly said, my name is Justine. So currently, I am the president of AMA Cincinnati. My term is quickly coming to an end. We have the way we operate our year is through the summers. So got a month and a half just to kind of crank through as much as we can. What I get paid to do during the day is I'm the director of growth hacking at the Garage Group. So the Garage Group, if you don't know, we're a smaller startup here in Cincinnati, and we have an office in Chicago as well. We are an innovation and growth strategy consulting firm. And so a lot of what I do is develop just really strong ways to increase the credibility of our brand with super big clients. So, I mean, Procter and Gamble, Kimberly-Clark, Nestle, Kraft Heinz, like all of these really large companies that it's kind of hard to get in front of them authentically. So that's like a lot of what I focus my time on. So what I majored in college, I was a professional writing and psychology major, so not marketing. Some marketing themes, but not marketing. First internship, I was a technical writing intern at a software company. At the time, I thought that I wanted to write, didn't know what type of writing I wanted to do, but that was the first thing that I tried and learned a lot, but not what I'm doing right now. So it's been quite the journey since I graduated in 2014. So I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn. I know a couple of you have already reached out, so feel free to connect.
Oh, hey, that's awesome. All right, thanks, Justine. Suzanne?
Hey guys, Suzanne Biesick. I am the immediate past president for AMA Cincinnati. I'm repping my AMA sweater that I got recently because during the year that I was president, our chapter won silver chapter of the year, which means that out of the 75-ish chapters in North America, Cincinnati earned number 2, which we'll take. We were really happy with. So I've been a part of the AMA since 2013. My professional role is I work at the Lindner College of Business. I'm the assistant director of marketing. So some of the students on here, I recognize some names. Maybe you've seen me at an event with a camera or a phone, tweeting and Instagramming and all that fun stuff. So that's me. And then first job out of college, right, Carly?
Yeah, or internship.
Or internship. Okay, well, so I actually went to Xavier for undergrad. I'm from Cincinnati, did the Catholic education thing for 16 years of my life. And my work study job at Xavier was in their Office of University Communications, putting out alumni magazines and other communications to faculty and staff. So it was like a really, really junior version kind of what I do now. So that was like kind of my work study job / internship that I learned a ton. And then right out of college, I graduated in 2011, height of the Great Recession. My first job out of college was a management trainee at Cintas on their creative services team. So, yeah.
Thank you, Suzanne. I keep thinking about your Starbucks cup Instagram picture that you put Starbucks open. I just thought that was a really cool angle that you had there.
I got to give credit. That was actually Sarah Elizabeth Perry. She was working for us last summer, and she was a former MS. So I got to give her props on that one.
Thank you for giving credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy.
Hey, everybody. I'm Amy Marsh. I am the VP of Marketing Communications for the AMA. So my joke is that I do the marketing for the marketing organization. So everything comms kind of funnels up through me. So everybody else in our organization does really amazing things, and I'm the one that gets to kind of communicate that to our community and just help drive all our initiatives through communications. What I do for the AMA is pretty much exactly what I do in my day job too. So the things get a little murky sometimes. Day job, I'm the marketing manager at ProSource, which is a mid-size business technology company. So I'm pretty much a one-person department. And by marketing manager, that kind of means I do a little bit of everything. Corporate marketing, product marketing, digital marketing, content marketing, support sales, and a whole lot of project management. So kind of like Justine, I didn't go to school for marketing. I actually have a master's from UC in professional writing. And so the communications route is how I made it into the marketing world. I feel a lot of your pain. I graduated from college right when everything crashed. I graduated in 2009. So I had an internship prior to my senior year as like an editorial intern. And I was supposed to be moving into a role with that organization when I graduated in 2009. And then everything crashed in 2008 and they went on a hiring freeze, and I did not, that role went away too. So I feel your pain. So what I actually ended up doing was going to grad school and working at the College of Business, where you guys are coming to us from. I worked it was right before it was called the Lindner College of Business, working in college relations there, and that's where I really dove into the marketing side of things.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. And welcome back, so to speak, a little bit. Rick should be pretty well known, but give us the deets.
Hey everyone, Rick Sweeney. My day job is I'm an associate professor of marketing in Lindner College of Business. So I may have had some of you in the introduction class or some other class at some point. My volunteerism with the American Marketing Association, I've been actually a volunteer with them since 1996 or 1997. So a number of years working in a variety of things, both on the local board and also with some other things nationally. I'm currently working with the AMA Foundation itself and doing some work with them. In college, my undergrad degree was in English and philosophy, so nothing at all, I didn't think, related to marketing. And my first job out of college was that I worked for a family-owned jewelry store. So again, you wonder how you get from one thing to the next, and that's what I did. I got my MBA across town at Xavier, and I got an internship right after finishing that up with a food service equipment and supply company. So a couple of interesting paths that I had kind of along the way, but happy to talk about any of those. And yeah, if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, make sure you do so.
Thank you so much. It's really interesting to hear that background and how you jumped around a little bit, Rick. Thank you. Claire?
Hey everyone, my name is Claire Motes. I am the VP of Programming Workshops for the Cincinnati AMA. So I put on all of our in-person workshops, which on a hold for right now, but can't wait to get back to it once we're all able to see each other in person again. My day job, I am the digital marketing specialist for a manufacturing company or an international manufacturing company. I've got a team of about 10 other marketing people that I work with there. My first job out of college, I think listening to you guys talk, I'm one of the rare folks that studied marketing and has done pretty much only marketing since I've graduated. My first job, they sent me an email 5 days before I was supposed to start telling me that they had to rescind my job offer because they got sued and couldn't afford to take me on. So I feel your pain if anyone's graduating without a job right out of college. I can feel your pain there. But I worked my way through a couple of marketing agencies here in Cincinnati and one out of town. And now I found myself in the corporate world again, working in the B2B space.
Awesome. Thank you, Claire. It sounds like you might be able to relate a little bit to how some of our students and alumni might be feeling when you graduated. Okay, Annie, hear from you.
Hey everybody, I'm Annie Carl. Currently the VP of Pinnacle Awards, which is our Marketing Excellence Award that we do here in Cincinnati and other chapters do across the country. Come this summer, I will be the incoming president-elect, I should say, for the chapter. So getting used to saying that, but I'm very excited to do it. My day job, when it pays, I started back into my own business. I put that on hold for about 5 years and then opened my business back up again. And I focus on business enablement. So I help people who have ideas but can't structure them. And then I also focus on experiential. And that's why I say when I get paid, because as you might know, a lot of things that happen in experiential marketing, also known as event marketing, live marketing, all sorts of things that have to do with face-to-face and people connecting. And that's kind of shut down right now. My first job out of college, well, I actually worked full-time in college. I went to UC, I got a degree in communications. I focused on public speaking, and there weren't really any at least it wasn't really a thing back then. And if you want to know when I graduated, you're going to have to look at LinkedIn, because I am not going to tell you how long ago that was. But I worked full-time in a medical uniform company, and I helped run all of their sales as well as operations. Quit that right at my senior year because I needed to finish a 500 level class to graduate. And then it took 6 months after that to get picked up working anywhere. And I did get picked up working as a fundraiser and spent 10 years with the American Red Cross doing multiple things. And then I moved into the world of entrepreneurship, then into manufacturing, marketing, and back to entrepreneurship. So happy to talk to you about any of that and a very weird winding path.
I think it's a little bit helpful to hear that the paths are a little bit winding, right? For all of you that think, you're planning some sort of linear career path, you can tell that, even sometimes the best laid plans switch up, and sometimes it's for the better. So thank you for that history about you a little bit, Annie. Okay, and Afton, our last panelist.
Hi, everybody. My name is Afton Palmer, and my role within the AMA is VP of Member Recruitment and Inclusion. So essentially what I do in the AMA is what I do in my day job. So my get paid to job is working at a marketing agency called PEP. We are a project management and procurement company based in downtown Cincinnati. And essentially what we do is help execute marketing campaigns for CPG businesses around the nation. So working similarly with clients that Justine mentioned her company works with, the P&G, Kraft Heinz, Cow Brands, Duracell, Unilever, L'Oreal, etc. So we're kind of all over the spectrum with the clients that we work with. My first internship, let's just say first internship. I'm a older college graduate. I actually just finished school 3 years ago because I changed my mind a lot. And when I was finally almost 30, I was like, let's just pick one. So I graduated from Cincinnati State with 2 associates, one in business management, one in marketing management, and an entrepreneurship certificate while I was working in retail. And when I was close to graduating, I got one of my first internships at an agency called Sunrise Advertising. Now it's Brandiance. And they've completely sort of flipped what they do now, but that was my first internship. I was there for 6 months, and then I got a second internship at Cincy Brew Bus. He's a small business owner who used to work at a bank, and he started a brewing tour company. So really fun, learned a lot. And now, like I said, I work in a marketing agency in human resources where I'm a recruiter, which is just an undercover salesperson who sells the company. But I really enjoy recruiting and talking to people, meeting people, answering questions. So you can ask me probably anything about recruiting, and if I don't know, I will point you to the direction that someone would know the answer to that. So that's all.
Thank you, Afton. I hope that all of you listening in can sort of hear and see that everyone on the panel has a lot of different things that they've done in their background. So I want you just to think about how success leaves clues. And even if you're, connecting with them on LinkedIn, look at, from where they went to school up until what they're doing now and everything in between, because there's a lot of connections that you can make, questions that you might be curious about, or maybe even industries or job roles that you hadn't considered before, but maybe you are now. So everyone on this panel is more than willing to help. That's why they're here. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that. And this is a great time for you to practice that virtual networking too, that might become very important versus that hey, let me meet you at Starbucks for a cup of coffee, because we're doing things a little bit differently right now. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on then. So as we move into the next topic, if you want to add in the chat some words that best describe how you're feeling about your career right now, we might be able to play off some of those. Feel free to share if you're comfortable. And then, I'll just throw out to the group, what trends are you seeing in the marketing industry right now as it relates to employment and the pandemic? And what skills should students be building to ensure they're competitive in this market?
Hey, I'll go ahead and start, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so I know this is a time when we start to think, okay, it's just down and it's tumultuous and there's all this going on, but it's actually kind of a really interesting time for us to rethink how marketing can drive business in the future, and so it's both kind of optimistic and also exhilarating, because business isn't going to be the same. Everything is changing, whether it is on the university level in terms of the service we provide, or if it is restaurants or hotels or airlines or any of the hospitality out there, or just department stores. And so you think this is really an interesting time for us to start to think about how business changes and what our roles as marketers can be in changing business and making it succeed once again. So it's going to be everything that we can really drill down into over the next little while in terms of what your technology skills are going to be, what kind of communication skills, what kind of strategic thinking skills, how you analyze data, and how you think through what consumers are going to want in terms of market research. So it's a whole host of things that we really can use in order to kind of further business as everything changes and whatever this new normal ends up being.
Yeah, I think something that I feel like I've leaned on the most as a marketer just through all this time, and I think if anything is going to be a super important skill, so more so soft skill, but related to a lot of hard skills, is just agility and operating with a growth mindset. I think a really good example is just a lot of marketers when all of this started, including myself and a bunch of people on the phone, is, live events are a huge part of our marketing toolkit. It's like this intangible way to be getting in front of people and making a strong impression for your company, and companies invest a ton of money in it. And of course, with all this happening, like all of a sudden, you're seeing all these companies and events just react in a bunch of different ways, but the ones that reacted the best are the ones that, were agile. They tried, and marketers wise, they thought about really quickly, how can I shift what we have planned for this year to kind of still achieve our goals. And I think that kind of holds true as it relates to a lot of things with marketing. I feel like the reason why a lot of us on this phone call, we aren't necessarily focused on just one skill or one type of marketing. I would consider the majority of the panelists were kind of generalists. But it's actually, I think, a really strong thing to be right now, because I think it enables you to kind of see the bigger picture and kind of slide into a lot of different skill sets. So I think there's a lot of pressure out there to like get really good at one thing. But I actually kind of feel like right now, especially because we don't really know skill wise, like what's going to be most important in 5 years. Like, I think it's really good to kind of have like a comprehensive understanding of all of the different skills from a marketing standpoint. So yeah, anyone else's thoughts on that?
I agree with that completely, Justine. I was saying this kind of even before the pandemic. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely a generalist. Like I said, I'm a one-person department and I kind of do it all. And, companies were already trying to do more with less. Sometimes that means people, sometimes that means budget. But, especially now, like when all of this hit, I mean, I spent my first few weeks of pandemic coaching sales teams on what to say and what not to say. How can they communicate when, those are people who are used to being in a room, and they suddenly felt just like they had no idea what to do. So I was doing sales messaging, our corporate messaging. Like, one of the things that I love about marketing is that I tend to be someone who knows one of the most about what is going on in my organization, just across departments, across functions, and that can be really valuable. So if you've got a range of skills that can help you do the communication, the digital marketing, I agree that, I know I personally felt a lot of pressure to specialize, but that changed, and I'm actually very happy, and I agree with Justine completely that there's a lot of value in building out your skill set.
I will say that so I mentor somebody who's new to the marketing profession. She comes from a commerce background too, and she's being asked to be a marketing department of one for a manufacturing company that she works for. And while I usually say like the safe place for the trends of marketing or to be in digital research, insights, analytics, and content. Like those are like the pillars of what you could really specialize in. But it doesn't hurt at all in the marketing world to know how each discipline plays off of each other, because they're all interdependent to make really great strategic campaigns and decisions for how you're going to approach building your brand or reaching your customers. What I will say also, though, is if you are going to be a generalist, just be comfortable in knowing that you can't know everything. So while SEO and writing for SEO is really important, my God, going down the rabbit hole of like SEO and what you need to be an SEO specialist for pay-per-click and all that kind of stuff can become really overwhelming. So be a generalist in the sense that you know enough to either get the job done or go and find the resources that can help you do that and advocate for the need for those resources.
Yeah. And going off what you were saying, Annie, I've noticed that people, this is a good time to be in marketing, because people who normally don't care about things like digital marketing, all of a sudden they give a crap about digital marketing and how to use social media and how to do Zoom calls. So they look to their marketing team to be the experts. So you guys have a pretty good advantage in that sense, because salespeople, or in my case, I've got engineers who are even coming to me asking about different campaigns that have been running relative to their products that they're pushing. So you've got to be able to take what you know and tell it to people in a way that they can understand when they're not in marketing every day. You guys are with your peers who are also in marketing, so you use a lot of the same jargon, you understand each other a little bit better. So build the skill of interpreting marketing results and what's happening, and being able to say it in a way that someone who doesn't live in this world every day will understand is going to get you guys a lot farther as well, because people care about this all of a sudden. It's in their face. You can't get away from it nowadays.
Another just kind of, I think, trend that I think is already existing, but it's going to be more important, or at least I'm seeing it could become more important coming out of this. And this is like such a buzzword, but everyone from the past like 5 years has been talking about like authenticity, and you have to be authentic and yada yada. And I think what's interesting is I actually feel like this pandemic has shown who can do that, who really knows how to do that, who really owns that and actually is that and isn't just the buzzword from a brand standpoint, and who's really struggling, So I think there's something around like, even as you're putting your foot out there, like being authentic and professional, and even showing how when you're job searching, you're acting that way, I think is something that like companies really need and really are looking for. So like a tangible way you can be doing that is, obviously right now it's kind of like awkward to be reaching out to people cold, because you don't know, did they have the virus? Did a family member pass away? Did they lose their job? Like, you don't know where they're at. So like, it's super important that you're not just saying like, hey, like, and then try to get what you want out of them. So it's something around the lines of saying like, hey, like, how are you? Here's how I'm doing. It's been hard, but like my dog and I are loving our additional walks a day. Like kind of being yourself, but like also being professional and open to them. So I think that in general, I think it's just a skill that you can be mastering and coaching others on, especially from like a sales point of view, like Amy said, that I don't think is going to go away. I think it's going to be just like so much more important as this all just continues.
I'll also add, in terms of what kind of trends are out there, what kind of ways that COVID is affecting business, and the way that you can be approaching things is to just continue to be really curious. And I know you all are in this space of learning, but I don't know who to credit this to, but somebody said that marketing is a living profession, which constantly changes. Sorry, thank you, Afton. Which constantly changes and evolves. So always being willing to learn, even if you're coming out with an idea of what you are passionate about, and even if you're coming out with really great experience from other internships and whatnot, just in this moment, being open to learning more about the organization, about the other parts of marketing, what's needed and where else you can be of use. That is something that will be really, really important.
I want to play off that too, because something that I think Brian and maybe Jess and I all see from students in marketing, especially going back to the generalist, is the need to like be able to tell the story of why you're interested in marketing and maybe, you know, one or two or three different parts of marketing, but to be able to almost like provide that evidence as to why. So if you say you're, you know, interested in experiential marketing and you talk about meeting with Annie or something like that, you can say to an employer what things you've been doing that really showcase that interest. And I think that's an important story to tell. And it's going to be easier for you to do it. I went and listened to an AMA webinar yesterday on storytelling, and I forget who hosted it. I think Amy, you were on it too, weren't you? And it was really interesting, and it even gave me an idea that I then communicated to Brian about what we can do in our office for like a potential new marketing video to encourage students to meet with us and do more virtual appointments, because we're seeing those go down. So even now, I don't have a marketing background, but I took the time to try to listen to that topic, and then, you know, it sparked something. So be able to have a story that clearly communicates why you're interested in something, and that, I think that'll help you be a little bit more authentic and real.
Yeah, that session we talked a lot about, it was storytelling, but it was about, you know, how are you making people feel? Like, what is your goal for how you make someone feel and how you move them toward the goal of what you want them to do? And I mean, I'm oversimplifying, but like that's marketing.
Carly, I have a quick point. So again, Jeff, students about this recently. And students, I think especially most of you that are interested in marketing or even the alumni, you do a really good job about assessing, you know, with the analytics, asking other people questions, seeing how they want to market themselves. But it also takes time to reflect on your own skill set and what you want to come across and what you want to do. And sometimes that's really hard because you're so far focused externally on that market research that you've already done. So really reflecting on that, even talking to Carly or Brian or myself, if you're a student or alumni, and saying, this is, you know, how I'm presenting myself. These are my materials. This is what I say in my elevator pitch. This is what I'm proposing. Does that make sense to you? Does it not? Are you hearing that perspective from employers? Because that's what we're constantly doing, is talking to employers and listening to them about, this is what we're looking for, this is what we need, and we can give you that feedback to say, you know, you have this skill set in this area that you're kind of underselling yourself in that way. So that's what we want to do here as your career coaches, to make sure that we're connecting you directly to those employers and what they're telling us they're looking for.
Thank you, Jess. So
Yeah, I was going to kind of share just on that note in terms, I think we're probably going to dive into like specific kind of job searching tips, but I think it's interesting because, like Amy said, marketers or people who are kind of leading in the area almost have a little bit of a leg up from a job search perspective, because what you're doing when you're job searching is you are marketing yourself and you are hunting for opportunities. So you're selling and you're marketing. It's funny because if you're even searching for jobs and you find yourself that you love the hunt, like you get like a high when like someone responds to you on LinkedIn for the first time, maybe you should go into sales or recruiting. Maybe actually marketing isn't like the specific thing that you should be in. So I think it's cool because I think if you think about like, what are the principles that I'm learning as it relates to my craft and how am I applying it to like my job search, it's like totally the same. So it's hopefully encouraging, but also like a good reframe if you ever get frustrated when you're going about that.
thanks, Justine. So I think we probably could switch gears a little bit, and, you know, participants, feel free to like ask your questions in the chat. I want to talk about James's question a little bit about almost like, do you settle for a job right now? I'm kind of thinking like the 2009 recession, like were people settling to try to like build skills and get their foot in the door, or should people be waiting? to get that like job that they really want. And maybe we could talk about that for a minute and then pivot to how students can stand out in their job search when it's more competitive. So any thoughts on settling?
I can say from experience, I've settled for a job before, and yeah, it sucked, but it's a lot easier to get a job when you have a job. I know that kind of sounds strange because job searching is almost a job in itself, but it does help if you have a job and you're currently working towards something to have that as a talking point when you're continuing to look for your dream job, so to say. And I wrote in the chat that you really have to reflect on what you're willing to give up now so you can gain that experience and you can meet the right people. And when that job comes around that you know you really want, you're going to be ready for it. And you're going to be ready to also give up the crap job that you just took in order to fill the space. So unfortunately, there's no easy answer, but I think taking a job that's available is going to be pretty important nowadays.
I totally agree with Claire. I mean, you know, there are so many different types of positions out there, and you're often going to take something that might not be what you want. You know, I took a job out of an internship out of my graduate degree, and it happened to be for a company that, you know, I knew early on, no, I don't want to do this long time. And but I was getting experience. So I was getting experience in some areas that I also knew I didn't want to do long term. And so a lot of that involved numbers and analysis in ways that I don't like to analyze things. But it taught me that. And secondly, I ended up making connections, which got me to my next job. And so you never know, kind of, even if you're in a position or in an industry or in a company that you might not like what you're doing or might not feel that it's the final thing that you want to do, you can make some connections through that. And that's how I got my next job, was directly from this one company.
I would say also don't go into the job with the attitude that don't go into the job with the attitude that you can't stand the job or you're not interested in the job, because if you're going to show up and not actually learn from it or do the job, it's not worth it. So go into it with an open mind that there's something from this that you can gain. And if you want to continue to look, great. And if you want to use this, there's a time where, you know, I was in fundraising, and by the fourth campaign, I was like, I want to run from this with my hair on fire. But it led me into a whole nother role in the Red Cross, which is why I ended up spending 10 years there. And that role became programmatic in sales as well. And I eventually figured out there are aspects of sales that I like, but what I really enjoyed were the parts that were what I call marketing. So I call marketing sales without a quota, which for some marketers would be like, don't you dare compare. But, you know, like, even when I was in those positions, like, what can I learn from this? What can I take from this? How do I show up for this? And as long as the job is serving you in some professional or personal development way, stick with it. When it starts to, or you can't fully show up and it's just making you look bad and killing your credibility, then it's time to move on and think of other things. But I do second what Rick says, and I do second what Claire says. Even when you get a job that you think is your dream job, you might find that the environment is not what you thought. You might find what the role is that you got is not exactly what it was on paper. So just keep an open mind.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, just the question, can you get there from here? You know, can this opportunity be a way to get you to that dream job? And you know, we don't know why there's maybe a role, like why you're feeling unsure. I know that, so the job I had before this one, I was there for 7 years. It was a small company in what at the time felt like a boring industry. And it maybe wasn't something that felt like, boy, this is going to be like creative and passionate and this and that. But I mean, obviously I was there for a long time. I learned so much more. I grew so much more. I remember when I started the job, I was brand new. I remember telling people, like, I can't believe how much they're letting me do. like right here off the bat. So it's, I mean, the question only you can answer about the why, but I agree with everybody else that I think we've all seen these kind of, this is maybe not my ideal, and we've either figured out how to get out, or it surprised us and we've either really grew into it or really grew from it.
James just asked a question about, you know, what if I took the job and then in a couple of months I applied to a job that I really wanted. And I mean, I think there's always this like fear of coming kind of off like a job hopper, kind of coming off flaky in your job search. And I do think those are important things to like think about. Like I think there is unfortunately some stigma around millennials and Gen Z like being non-committal, being a little more flaky than maybe like our parents were. But I think what's most important is if you think about kind of like the grand scheme of your career. Like when I look at resumes, and Afton, I'm really interested in your thoughts on this too. When I look at resumes, when I'm reviewing them, what I look for is a pattern of being like job hopping, because that to me shows, like, I don't know if I can trust this person to stay for a long time. Like, I don't know if I can trust that this person isn't just always looking for the next best thing, or why are they always leaving? Like, that is what I think about. When it's just once, like when it's just maybe like one stint or maybe even the first stint, I might not think that as much, because I might want to give you like a chance to explain your story. So like, for example, if you went, I've had a couple friends that when they graduated and they got their first job, they were miserable. Like they were absolutely miserable. And they were like, do I stay here? Do I go find something else? Like, what if I get called a job hopper? And like, what was most important is that they like their mental health was okay, and they felt like they weren't just as miserable as they were. So I think it's just, I would try to take it to the bigger picture. But Afton, what do you think about that question?
Yeah, so the job hopper question, it's always going to be there, especially if you're in school or if you were let go or if you're working on a contract or you just ended up leaving for some other reason. Like, I know that I've been accused of being a job hopper, and it's like, well, it wasn't necessarily that I didn't want to do the job. It's sometimes I just had poor management and I'm too old to deal with that. But how do you say that when you're in an interview or when you're trying to get the interview? You can always explain some of these things in your cover letter, because your cover letter and your resume plus your LinkedIn profile, I'd say the combination of those three are what's going to get you a conversation. We're not always worried about social media and what you're doing unless it's like a very locked down organization that deals with like Western Union and banking and things like that. But from what I've seen, I always look at recent graduates or people who are in transition and say, okay, they were at this company for a few months. It looks like they were finishing school. So as long as you are helping to paint that picture for the employer, I think people are going to be smart enough to understand, like, yes, they were in school during this time. This was an internship, but you can also indicate that on your resume. Don't always feel like someone's going to pass judgment on you before you even get an opportunity to explain the reasonings behind why it may look job hoppy. You were in Europe for 6 months studying abroad, but you didn't put that on your resume. Put that on your resume. What are some of these other points?
Well, I think no matter what, people are going to look at your resume. Like, I mean, just think even like 5 years from now, they're like, what were they doing in 2020? Like, I mean, like this whole situation, I mean, anything is possible. And like, you know, if you're able to communicate, like, you know, I was experiencing this at the time, and this is what I worked with. This is what I did with those circumstances. You know, if you're able to articulate that kind of, I mean, and you can be genuine. You can be like, look, I felt really lost for a second, and I was not in a financial situation where I could be picky. So I took the job, and this is how I grew, and I was able to do this, this, and this, and then now we're here, or whatever. So.
And just to piggyback off that, while you're actually doing that job that isn't ideal, like maybe you have to go work in a fast food restaurant or somewhere that is like completely different than what you're even going after. You can still do volunteer work like what we're doing right now. You still have the capability to network and connect with other organizations that still need help. They may not pay you. You are still learning skills, and then you can still put them on your resume. That's how I got my role at PEP. Like, I was not an official recruiter. I've been a manager and I've hired people before, but having the title of official recruiter, that only came from the AMA. And that's how I landed this role that I've been at almost 2 years. So make sure you leverage what you know, the people you know, and some of these organizations that are asking for help, especially because they probably can't afford it right now. They probably can't afford the people that they need to pay. So they're like, well, what do I do? Well, there's a whole slew of college students and college grads who are like, I got the skills, help me.
Well, Carly, what's another question that you think we should dig into? Because there's a ton coming in here, and I just want to make sure we answer them. But what's one that you would want us to kind of talk through from what you're seeing?
Well, I really, I think just sort of standing out among like the heavy competition. Like Afton, you said applications are up for some of your roles. So, you know, we do a lot of like coaching and classes around how to be competitive, but it's even more important now. And one of the themes that I'm hearing is still connecting with people, which we've always said, like, but is there anything like on your minds that you can share with the group about how to be effective in their job search without just applying online?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to just always go back to proactive networking. So, and the reason I say that is because like, it's just, I mean, it's just so hard to stand out digitally. And obviously you can do whatever you can to do that. And I'm sure there are other people on this call who have a lot more insight on that. But I mean, I think when you think about networking, don't just think about like who you've personally connected, but like think about your friends, think about your friends' parents. Like this is the time to be really humble and, you know, fall on your sword a little bit and don't be afraid to kind of ask for help and ask to learn. The reason why I said proactive, because I think there's sometimes like a little bit of a little bit of an inclination to like limit your networking to what jobs are out there right now, but you don't know in a couple of months, like what's going to be popping up there. So proactively identify what companies you want to work with, try to reach out and learn from people who are there. And that way, like, let's say there's an opportunity that comes up in a couple of months, you've already learned, you've already identified like potential ways to get in with that company. And now all you have to do is kind of do that, reach back out and then kind of seal the deal. So I think it's about trying to be proactive, like focus on kind of what you're most interested in and then proactively network your way to setting a stronger foundation for yourself. Yeah, that I hate to always fall back on networking, but like, I mean, that's the only way I've gotten jobs. So
yeah, and I'll jump in there and say that like, I've always been somebody who like, I don't know, the word networking is like intimidating to me. I mean, I've gotten better with that, but like you hear that networking is how you get jobs and like that used to just scare me to death. But like at its, you know, at a really core level too, some of it is just, you know, this can be a really friendly thing. Talk to your friends, talk to us. I mean, Justine, you're still on my screen. I'll call you out in a good way. I mean, Justine helped me make the connection to my current job. I was looking for a new opportunity and I was, you know, we're talking in the chat about, boy, job searching is exhausting, and it is. So what is something you can do that like can keep your job search going and without a ton of extra effort from you is just let your friends know. You know, if networking feels scary, start with like your inner circle, maybe expand it a little bit. Justine had a friend who had a friend who was recruiting for like a confidential role. So I think it was like posted in one spot, like really hidden. Justine knew that I was looking. I got connected through those layers with a hiring manager. And I started 4 weeks later, and that was just like, I trust Justine. She's my friend. I mean, she's my colleague too, but I didn't have to get super outside of my comfort zone even for that. So just don't be afraid to like lean on everybody. And I completely agree that your network is bigger than just like, oh, I connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think it's and I'll stop talking after this. I'm a very external processor. Being an extrovert is so weird during this time. But I would say it's funny because when Amy and I went through that experience, like I started referring your like authentic network. I started referring to it as like it's like your army. It's like you don't need your army until you're in like a crisis. Let's say you're looking for a job, and it's that group of people that you just want to like protect you and defend you and do things for you and reach out and help you at like a moment's notice. So I think you always want to be kind of proactively like building that group of people that know what you want from a career standpoint, know who you are, because they're going to be your eyes. The more eyes you have out there doing that, like the more potential you have to find something. So I'm going to stop now. Someone else talk.
Before we jump into our next session, because we're closely running out of time, I just wanted to like piggyback on the networking and remind everybody of what's been said numerous times about being curious. And to me, that's what networking really is. It should be a space for you to be more interested than interesting. So don't worry so much about what you have to say or what you have to offer, and think about what are you really interested in learning about. So if you're looking at Justine's profile or you want to talk to Afton, like what questions are you actually really curious about to start a conversation? Because that's going to be more beneficial for the relationship than just looking at questions on Google or something like that. So just be curious, and that's going to help guide your networking. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful as well. So with the last couple of minutes that we have, I want to give the AMA panelists a chance to talk a little bit about how you can get involved with AMA, because they have some great things that you can join that will help you to build some of these skills and possibly increase your network as well. And Brian, I think you have a slide you could put up maybe for that.
Well, I can say right now, when, back in March, when it was becoming clear that we weren't going to be having live or in-person events for a while, I mean, Justine activated our whole board and was like, okay, guys, we have to pivot, and we also have to, be human and sort of respond to our local marketing community in Cincinnati right now. How can we be there for them? And, it really forced us to kind of retool our approach. We put out a survey among our members, just being like, hey, what are you guys feeling right now? How are you guys doing? And, I mean, the responses, they were all over. I mean, but I would say probably most of all, people, sort of inside or bottom line was people still wanted to learn and grow, but just what that looked like or how they did that, maybe, was unclear to them at that time. So that's what we're trying to do as a board. It's like, okay, how can we best respond to our local marketing community and be there for them, and, provide the events for not just members, but members and guests, or non-members, but we like to call them guests. And just be there for them and provide resources. So, I mean, for example, I just saw this today on the AMA Cincinnati website, but we have a virtual lunch table next week. And it's just like, come hang out and, eat lunch, not staring at your computer screen, but you're at least like talking to other people. And, or we have an upcoming YP panel on May 27th. You can register for that on our website, amacincinnati.org. My AMA Daily, that is the National AMA's daily email newsletter. And it's curated from all kinds of sources. And I mean, it really represents like probably the top tier national thought leadership that, it's kind of like, here's what you should be reading right now. I don't want to be the only one talking if anyone wants to chime in here.
Jump in and say the panel, for the YP panel that's coming up, is all about how to build your professional presence online and dealing with things like virtual interviewing and virtual networking. So I would definitely recommend hitting up that event if you guys are able to on the 27th.
I would also say that one of the recruiters we talked to a lot at her job now and her job previously is going to be co-hosting that. So I'm sure there's going to be some awesome advice coming from that.
I just spelled it wrong, but I'll say volunteer. I'll reiterate that I'm an orator, not a content writer. And the reason I say volunteer is A, it builds your resume, and B, this chapter, we are a silver chapter, we are a strong chapter. We have people like Rick Sweeney who have been with our chapter for years, and other executive marketers who have great connections to companies here locally. So being able to use your skills and enhance your own professional development, as well as benefit the organization. If you want in on Marcom, come at us. We could use your help. Social, email communication, digital, all sorts of stuff. But there are plenty of other opportunities. And on top of that, once you start doing that and getting yourself known, or even having that on your resume, we're a well enough known organization with enough people. Almost 400 members. You're going to find a way that will help with your networking and potentially lead you to your next career.
Yes. And I'm just going to jump in. Oh,
no, you go, Afton. I'll go after you. Go for it, girl.
I was just going to say, obviously volunteer, but when you do volunteer, and if you happen to apply for a job that any of us work at, I love seeing people whose resumes say AMA Cincinnati or the UC AMA chapter, because then I go stalk and I'm like, let's see if they're telling the truth. And when they are, I'm like, okay, we're going to move them through at least to the initial interview round. It's like you already have an in, because I know that you are doing something within the chapter, whether it's the professionals chapter or the student chapter. And that makes me think that, honestly, you're a more desirable candidate. So the competitive advantage is participating in the AMA. And then, if you're not, and then I find out, then I'm like, Carly, who is this person? They said that they volunteer, but they don't. But anyway. So.
I was going to say, I think so my role, I'm pretty intersectional between marketing and sales. And in sales, on the more of the sales side, we talk a lot about needing a strong reason to reach out. So we always need that strong reason to reach out to someone. And that definitely, I think, applies to job searching, networking, building your network, all that stuff. And I found that AMA when it relates to just growing my network, learning as much as possible, has given me my strongest reason to reach out. So let's say, you're volunteering for the YP committee, or let's say you're volunteering for the collegiate group, and you guys decide that you want to do a series on marketing leadership, and you want to have 3 people. Well, that gives you a really strong, authentic reason to reach out to 3 strong marketing leaders in Cincinnati and say, hey, my name is so-and-so. I am on the board for AMA Cincinnati Collegiate Chapter at UC. And we would love to learn from you. Can we schedule a call? Would love to get to know you and see if you could come and chat with our chapter. Super authentic way to start a relationship with someone that isn't just, hey, I want a job. Can we talk? So for me, definitely as president, but in every role I've had with AMA, super strong reason to reach out that doesn't feel slimy. And then you're building really strong relationships and rapport with people. So that's kind of a benefit of volunteering. I think to actually get those reasons to reach out, you have to get in there. You have to kind of put in the work. But that's kind of the fun part and kind of the added benefit of being part of that sort of organization, and really any organization, but obviously AMA Cincinnati.
I got involved with the AMA when I was employed, but I was at a kind of a low spot in my current job. I was lonely. I didn't feel like I was growing. I was, again, it was a very small company. So it gave me just marketing colleagues. You guys are kind of already in the space, so you have each other, but having marketing colleagues is huge. I worked on real projects that completely count as, it's volunteer work, sure, but it's legitimate professional experience. The last, I guess it's been like a little over 3.5 years, has totally changed the trajectory of my career, my passion about what I do. And also I found, at one point I had a bunch of people on my committee, and I like to talk to them about, what's one thing that you do really well, and then maybe what's something that you want to learn. It's a really safe way to learn something new. Whether it's for I want a job in this space and I need to learn this skill, probably we have somebody who knows how to do it and can help you learn it. So it's just in terms of like both the personal and professional, just gratification that you get out of it. Like I'm speaking from personal experience that it's made a huge difference for me.
Even from a social aspect, a big reason why I joined right when I graduated from college was because you guys might be a little different in your situation, but I didn't go to college here in town. So I came back to Cincinnati and I was like, what do? I don't really know this city as well as I used to when I first started college. So, from that aspect, it's really fun too. You meet a lot of really cool people. So sure, there's the business and the professional aspect, but it's also really fun. So don't let that dissuade you if you think that it's all business all the time, because it's not. We like to have fun.
Another thing, for those that aren't from Cincinnati or planning on not sticking around Cincinnati, if you become an AMA member while you're still a student, when you graduate, you get 1 year of membership for free. That can be applied to any chapter. That saves you $150 right from the jump. And say you relocate to Chicago, Iowa's gold chapter of the year. They have the strongest chapter in the country. Sacramento, wherever. You'll have some good momentum, and you'll start networking and kind of sort of blooming where you're planted when you relocate.
All right, so we are just about out of time, so I just want to take a moment to thank all of our Cincinnati AMA panelists so much for being here with us and for providing some insight and advice. I think this just goes to show the value of relationships and reaching out and getting connected and hearing from professionals that are doing the things that you want to be doing. So my best advice to the students on the call is keep the conversation going. Reach out on LinkedIn, see if you could maybe set up a time to chat individually. I know we had a lot of questions in the chat that I'm not sure all of which were answered, but if you have other specific questions for the panelists, shoot them an email, shoot them a LinkedIn message, see if there's a way to keep the conversation going. Although also I will say, get involved, like they were saying, with whether that's with the Cincinnati AMA or UC's chapter of the AMA. The incoming president, Brad, is on this call. He's a great resource. There he is. Hey, Brad.
Hi.
You want to give a quick
Hey, Brad.
plug?
I didn't know if that was like okay. I was wondering the whole time, but yeah.
By all means.
Plug away. So hi everyone. I am the incoming president for UC, American Marketing Association. So we're the collegiate chapter of all of these wonderful individuals. So what we do at the university is try to do a lot of what we've been talking about in growing our networks and learning those tangible skills. Obviously, we have a lot to program this year, and everything's kind of up in the air of what we have planned for this year, thanks COVID-19. But of course, we're gonna, we have a team full of driven students who want to get to work and who, like I'm sure all of you who are on this call, want to learn more and want to become better marketers, and that's what we're working on over at UC AMA. So I already plugged our little join me, but I can put our Instagram at the bottom too. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brad. Appreciate that. Great way
Thanks,
to
guys.
get
This was
involved into
amazing,
networking.
by the way.
Awesome.
It's
So
really fun.
just so that you all know, this has been recorded, so we will send it out. So if you didn't get a chance or you missed something, you can watch it later on. And I'll also say your career coaches are still here. You know, we're still able to meet with you virtually. So if one, like, you know, what is the best strategy to go about networking, or you have other specific questions, you know, about your job search or getting an internship or all those things, please know that we are here and willing to help however we can. So feel free to reach out to us via email, set up an appointment on Handshake. We're happy to connect with you as well. But I think that is it. Carly, anything else on your end?
No, just a big thanks for joining the conversation to everybody on the call. I think it was worthwhile. We could probably talk about this for hours and hours. This reminds me of why I love my job, and it's helping other people find out what they're passionate about and getting people connected. So thank you all for connecting virtually, and I hope you do continue the conversations like Brian said. And just remember to be curious and be humble, and reach out and ask for help, because there's a lot of people here that are willing to help and talk with you. So have a wonderful day. I don't know if it's sunny out because I'm in my basement, but hopefully it's warm and sunny. I don't know. We could all use some of that right now.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thanks.